Welcome back to the Virtual Cafe Summer Speaker Series, where I'm joined with Mischka today. Welcome, Mischka.
Hello.
Hey, friend. For those who don't know, Mish is current current Exotic Flow winner of Exotic Generation 2023, I think it is. I think it goes for the next year. Yeah. And then Miss Pole Dance Australia winner for 2020, and all-round legend and superstar, and the bringer of all exercises on the Pole Physio page. And yes,
that you bully me into doing. Yes, now
yes, and I was going to say, and one of my wonderful patients. So I, yes, got the privilege of working with you quite a fair bit. And I've bullied you, we'll go with that word. I've bullied you into coming on board to chat about a couple of things. And we're starting off today with one of those topics, which is about preparation for competition. And then our next chat, we're looking at more specifics in terms of how to create a routine and structure it. So we're going to leave all the routine nitty-gritty stuff to next time. And I'm going to dive straight in today in terms of comp prep to help all of those who are watching learn how to perhaps create their first routine, or for those who are old hats at doing it, to refine the process a little bit better. So first of all, I'm going to flip the script. We've been talking in these series about finding your why a fair bit. So I'm going to start with a question directed to you, and obviously everyone's answer is going to be completely different, but why do you do competitions?
Why?
Why?
For me, like, comps push me very much out of my comfort zone, both physically and mentally, and confidence wise as well. Like, I'm not the most confident human in the world. So to get on a stage is pretty like hard, but once I have done it, I'm like, yeah, go me. But other than that, like the whys, I suppose, like, I mean, I'm teaching quite high levels at Divas, and I suppose like comps kind of keep me on my toes with pushing my body to be able to deliver new content to my students as well. So, like that's a roundabout sort of reason why, but yeah, like comps will always make me aim to do bigger, better tricks, or refine tricks, or find different transitions and ways to get into things, which then I can also be like, oh, this would be great in class as well. So I think staying quite high, like trying to keep myself at quite a high level of being able to do tricks and things pays off for both teaching high levels and also for comps as well.
So it kind of comes down to pushing yourself and pushing your boundaries and seeing what you can physically, mentally, emotionally withstand.
I'm pretty stubborn too, I guess. So like I like to be like, okay, well, that was a good year, but I've got more.
Stubborn? You know. I think you are, and confidence. That's so interesting to hear you say that you think you're not a confident person. I know you're a confident person, but I do know that there's part of you that's an introvert as well. So I see what you're saying there. But to anyone else who's probably watching, they're like, if you're not confident, then they'd be wondering what they are. But yeah, no.
It's all just a lie, like the exterior. So for anyone else watching, if they're like, oh my God, it's all lies, guys. The exterior part of my confidence is a lie.
So when you step into the pole studio and you become Mischka, you put on,
yeah.
you're a different personality. I've seen you in class many a times, and you're a gentle, lovely person outside of class, and inside class you're still a gentle, lovely person, but with a bit of a hard ass attitude in a good way. You push us to do our best. So yeah, we love it. We absolutely love it. Okay, so let's then talk about a bit more focused towards comps in terms of preparation. So when I was sitting down to think about this chat, I sort of started thinking about my patients who don't pole at a professional level. And most of the people who are watching this probably don't pole at a professional level. So I kind of wanted to take it back to what you do outside of comp prep first, because a lot of the times I have patients turn up to me and they're like, oh, I'm doing this. And I'm just like, you are doing more than a professional athlete. So I first of all wanted to set the tone by finding out what you do in a week-to-week basis, so people can understand what you actually do. Because on Instagram, it looks like professional pole dancers train every day, and it looks like they're posting constantly. So it gives this illusion. So how many times a week outside of comp season would you be training pole?
Look, if I'm lucky, it's 3 sometimes, like, because I obviously work quite a lot teaching as well. So if I'm unlucky. I guess it's only 2 a week. You know, like for me, I have to structure it around my schedule. So it might be like, okay, I have 1 hour free in this day and I'm going to quickly practice this. I'm going to drill this skill that I need to be working on in that 1 hour. So it's not like it's going to be a Instagram video kind of training session. It's just me drilling a particular skill if I only have an hour available. But I would like to go, okay, well, I've got like 3 chunks of time in the week where I can train pole stuff, and that will vary. Like maybe I've got heels on and I'm doing a heels flow, which is a different intensity to if I'm just drilling a combo again and again to refine and to make it better. Or if I'm like the other day I was, and this sounds silly, but the other day I was just drilling some skills for some tricks that I want to be able to achieve in 2023. And you walk out of it and you're like, I didn't get anything pretty for Instagram. But that's such a stupid mentality. But like, we're all conditioned to be like, ooh, let's put this on Instagram and show everybody what I do every day. But so, you know, it was hard to sit down and be like, well, if I want these tricks, I'm not gonna just pull them out of my ass. I need to actually work for it. So it was just one of those sessions where it was like, I'm not going to get that quick little hit of like, ooh, look at my video of me doing a pretty thing, because I'm just doing the dirty work. You got to get it done. So the training sessions themselves will vary from, maybe I'm dancing and doing a dance flow, maybe they're tricks and combos, maybe I'm in the midst of training for a comp. So every time I am training, it's a shorter session because it's a lot more intense, but it's only competition stuff, you know? So it does vary, and it will also vary on how many hours per week I'm teaching, which I am trying to put a cap on this year. That is my goal. Let's see how successful I will be.
You've had a stern talking to from me about that. Being like, less, do less. All right, so that's out of season. So in comp season, is it more like 3 to 4 times per week, or is it still 3 but a definite 3?
It can be 3 to 4, but they are distinctly shorter. Like in some of my competitions, like so for Exogen, my body loves to flow. That is like the easier form of movement for me. Something like a Miss Pole is way harder because, I don't know, some people just have cardio just blessed to them. I am a sweaty cardio, non-cardio person. Like it's just, so for me, I might only, say for a Miss Pole routine, I might only be able to do 2 runs of that routine, or a run and a half run. But I will need an hour and a half to do those 2 things, to just lay down in between each effort. To do a warm up, to like mentally prepare. But something like Exogen, I could maybe do 2 runs in like 45 minutes because my body flows way easier in flow. Yeah.
And we're obviously talking about full runs back to back, and that was like in those weeks leading up to EXO, not necessarily the start where the comp training might look a little bit.
Because at the start of comp training, like for EXO, for example, you know, there's a lot more time dedicated to it because you're trying to find different pathways for your body. You're trying to look at something and film it, and then, or, you know, like I work with Lisa D and I've loved working with Lisa. So it's just maybe a 2-hour chunk where she's like, go up, do this again, but slightly different. No, didn't like it. Come down, do it from here, you know. So just finding different pathways, which will take more of your time, and will be a lot more effort as well. Like you don't think it's that much because you're in the midst of it and you're really focused, and then after an hour and a half, you're like, oh my god, it's gonna like melt out of here. But yeah, then when it's closer to comp, I don't need to worry about that. It's more of finding pathways and different types of movement. Like the movement is found. I just need to refine it, video it, watch it back and go, didn't like that body wave. I need to make it more fluid or whatever. So less time necessary then, I suppose, as opposed to when you're trying to create the thing at the very start. Yeah.
So different comps.
That's important too, because as you get closer to the comp, you shouldn't be in the studio that much, training that much. Like I would like to still be able to fit in some playtime during the week, so it's not just all comp, but realistically it doesn't always happen. Just because tired, I'm getting older. Tired lady. Yeah, like I don't think coming closer to a comp that you should be in the studio jamming that often. Like you have to pull back and let your body be recovering from what you're training for, and you know, going away and visualizing if you're that kind of person as well, like listening to your music and visualizing your routine, because that's really helpful.
Yeah. Mish is my age, by the way. She's not old. So if anyone that is watching, you are not an old lady.
I feel old.
The body does substantially a lot more than my body does. So all right, so you've already answered a whole bunch of questions that I had, which is brilliant. So you train with a coach, so you train with Lisa D, who's phenomenal. So she's brilliant. Yeah, so that's amazing. And you're already starting to talk about some of the differences that you need to look at, or people need to look at when they go into preparation for comp. So how when they're further out, it's, you know, shorter parts on the pole or off the pole, creating the routine, and then but maybe more frequent versus when they're getting closer to the pole, it's less frequent sessions over the week perhaps, and more intense, and we're going for a little bit more endurance.
Yeah.
All right, I'm bringing it back to training sessions per week, because we know that you don't just train pole in a week, you also train a whole bunch of other things. So we, during comp season, training 3 maybe 4 times a week. Flexibility on top of that, is that something you train during comp season?
I do. In saying that, like, I think some people, maybe not so much anymore, but like some people I think some people treat their flexibility as like, I will sit and split. I will sit.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, then my flexibility session is a very gymmy kind of session. So I do a session a week with Ali Mae from Flexercise, because she is a legend. And yeah, it'll start off with she knows what I need. She knows what my body needs. And that is like a lot of strength before I'm going into flexibility things, because my body doesn't respond well to being like, just warm up with a split or something like that. Like, I need to be going through a lot of active split drills and a lot of strength movement and a lot of rotation, because my thoracic gets really like nuggety. That's the best way I can explain it. So yeah, it'll be a lot of that. And then like the last 15-20 minutes or so is going into depth of split or back bend or whatever. I've been getting her to push me into back bends a bit more lately, because I won't do that shit by myself.
And I was about to say, now that lately is being out of comp season. So you push into deeper ranges when you're outside of comp season. When you're in comp season, you're not really trying to learn a new flexibility skill, so to speak.
No, just sort of like drilling like maybe skills that I've learned in the past, but I'm not as good at them. So yeah, let's drill it. So I'm still trying to improve on what I can or can't do. But yeah, it's not like, hey, let's learn this flippity flying into a back bend or something. Like, I wouldn't do that during comp season. The other things that I definitely do as well are a couple of gym sessions a week. Last year was a bit of a shit show, because it was just
You and I both can say that.
I think that's for everybody, right? Like, first year out of COVID, and I was at like lockdowns, and I was kind of like, I will catch up on everything I missed out on and all the work, and just got a little bit wild. So I was probably getting just 1 gym session a weekend, which is fine. Like, for me, I need that to keep my body sort of glued together. It's like, I don't like to say that, you know, pole is destructive to your body, but kind of.
Like nurturing movements. Let's flip the script.
Yeah,
so
it's not like you come out of it all the time and you're like, oh, I feel so nurtured after that.
I feel so delightful. You don't get that feeling, do you?
No. So like, I feel like in the gym I can do things that are a lot more not that I don't have control on a pole, I know that I do, but I can do things that are a lot more controlled in the gym. And it's kind of that boring shit of like, oh, I'm pressing overhead or whatever, but I like
Excuse me, I don't think that's boring.
I like repetition. It's not the same as being artistic on a pole, but for me, I always come out of it feeling better and my body feels stronger. Yeah, like there was something you said before where you're like, there's some people that aren't professional polers that are training more than professional polers. And I was like, yeah, well, that was me when I decided to go full-time pole and teach pole full-time, because I was kind of like, well, now I need to be really good. I need to be so excellent. And then I broke my back. and then I came crying to you because I was stuck on my back like a turtle one time and I just couldn't get up, and I don't want to ever have to live like that again. So yeah, like
literally, for anyone who doesn't know, sorry, like literally Mish had a back fracture. So just for anyone who doesn't know the backstory, because they might be like, broke a back, but yes, you had like a minor fracture.
Yeah, and that is literally just from me not listening to my body and being a bit of a dick and being like, well, I've gone full-time pole now, so I need to be training all the time. I need to be so good, and I need to, I think if you're doing pole, you know that it's not a short-term thing. You do pole because it's like this cool expression, and you can find so many artistic ways to move and everything. It's a long game. So yes, you can train hard as long as you're training smart, but like what I did wasn't smart, and then it led to me having a severe injury. And so for me, after that injury in particular, I need to make sure that I'm just on it with keeping my body glued together, which means that I go to the gym once, hopefully twice a week. I do my strengthening with Ellie Mae. Like at the moment, I've got a little home program because my elbows are bum. It's you, Sim, are helping me with that. So I do my homework at home as well. So, and it sounds like a lot, but for me, that's what's important. Like I love to dance and I love to teach pole, and I want to be able to do it for a fairly long amount of time. So I don't want to be like, oh, well, my body caved in because I didn't give it the respect it was owed. Like I worked it into the ground. Like I don't want that to happen. I want to be like, oh, my body gave in because I'm 67 and I had to stop pole dancing.
No, we don't do that either.
87.
No, you're polling until the day you die.
Alrighty then.
To say that age is never an excuse. Physical ailments maybe, but age is never. If you're physically able to, you can certainly. Yeah, that's how I feel anyway, and I will make sure. And you will never be overusing your body again on my watch. That's for sure. Be like, I will be just as hard on you. What you give to me in lesson love, I'll give back to you in physio love. And I was gonna say, so yeah, it does sound like a lot, but as we're talking about things, so we've got talking about training pole, we're talking about training flexibility and strength. So we do a bit of a lap over. So I help you create your gym programs, which you're doing once, twice a week. And then on top of that, we've got Ellie Mae from Flexercise, who has done a talk with us as a part of the speaker series. So if it hasn't come out already, it will soon. It's fabulous. So we've got those. And then you do cardio on top of that, because I've made you recently. Sad face. Yes. So, and then a little bit different than just going for a run. We're talking about some high intensity cardio training, and that's
yes,
once or twice a week at the moment. What do you?
So I'm trying to lump at least one of them in with my gym program so that I do it at the end of the session or the start if I need it as a warm up. But I did that once and I was like, the rest of the session. So I leave it to the end. So yeah, I did that program actually yesterday, Sim, and I finished with my 3 by 2.5 minutes on the row machine because I used to row, everybody. Yes. So yeah, at the moment, I literally only have 2.5 minutes in me and that's it, stroking at a 28 strokes per minute. So like, so she's not going full out, but my cardio just is not good. I'm really jealous of people that come off stage and they're like, oh, that was nice. Like there is a photo of me after Miss Pole where I'm laying on the floor and my eyes are literally like rolled into the back of my head. And I look like I have just seen Jesus.
Like, not going to heaven.
Head, like, and I know I do some big tricks and I push it a bit, but like some people just walk off stage and they're like, huh, that was nice. I'm like, who are you? What is your cardio? Like, what do you do? You probably do nothing, but which is fine. It's just their body, but I need to work for my cardio, which is funny because I used to do triathlons. So that used to be all that I used to do, but yeah.
As I said, there's just genetics, right? Our bodies are different. Like I have naturally broad shoulders and I look super muscly. And you said that to me a couple of weeks ago. You're like, oh, your back. It just naturally looks muscly. And I'm like, I've actually dropped some gym stuff recently. I have not touched it. So I was like, but thank you if it's genetics. Thank you. Some people are just designed for cardio. I am not. I'm with you on that camp as well. So it just doesn't feel natural when you do it. So you just have to work a little bit harder. But yes, that's certainly one of our goals for you for this year is to get cardio feeling a bit more natural. So, and we're training it in out of season so that when it comes time for comp training, we don't have to worry so much about adding in heavy cardio load at the time because the cardio foundation will be there. And when you start doing longer routines, that replaces your cardio. You don't have to then be doing cardio as well as longer routines.
And my out of season, like the first comp that I'll be doing this year is in like end of June for anyone who's like, what is out of season? So, it's January now, end of June is when my first comp will be.
Yeah, so that's a good 6 months, right? So at the moment, we're in January still. So I sat down with Mish the other day and we planned and started programming to, well, I kind of just told her, I was like, we're doing this. And she nods her head, which is great. Makes it a little bit easier for me. But then I also happen to know your calendar and I'm like, okay, well, I know you're at, Exogen Pole retreat at this particular week. And I know, what's happening here and there. right, here's your deload week, here's your heavy load weeks, and so forth. So I can actually sit down as a professional with strength and conditioning background to actually map out what the next 12 weeks and then 24 weeks, so 6 months, looks like off the pole. And then I'm leaving it to you, obviously, to do the stuff on the pole. That's your area, that's not mine. But at least we can sort of sit down and go, right, between me and Ali, this is what we're going to do from a strength, flexibility, cardio perspective. These are the exercises. On top of that, we've got rehab, and we manage that. How many rest days do you reckon you're going to get a week? So let me
what does teaching count as a not rested day?
That's a really good question. So many people will want to know that, right? So yeah. Okay, no, in my eyes. So are we getting at least one day off a week? Good. Okay, but here's my thing, right? We have high, medium, and low intensity rest days. High, medium, low intensity workout days. So whilst teaching is considered still exercise, you can still have lighter load days. And so I think that's really important as well for people listening at home, is that Mish will have days where there's really heavy, long days, and I know your diary, they're super long, some of them. And then there'll be days that'll be a little bit lighter, and there'll be some training with it as well. So but you have also built up your resilience and your capacity and load. That's the key so no one at the moment can compare themselves in terms of workload to you. Everyone's individually really different. You've built up your tolerance from a strength point of view. So what you think you lack in cardio, you have in strength by a mile. so your body is able to, we've worked hard on that. So your body's able to tolerate a lot, whereas some other people, they won't. So ideally from a physio point of view, I would like beginners to not really be doing more than 2 pole classes a week, like true beginners, like pole tricks. If you want to do a dance class in there, fine, but pole tricks. In terms of like intermediates and advanced, you're looking at 3 to 4 times a week, and you should be having at least 2 to 3 rest days in there off pole. So to give you an idea, professional level, I'm happy for 1 day off. So Mish, you're right. If you turned around though and said I've got nothing planned, we'd have a sit down after this.
Yeah, I think like rest is very important, and yeah, like I think having someone like you should always have someone external sort of guiding you with what you are doing, because I in particular, and I'm sure you as well, like I don't think anyone can really step back and look at their timetable and be like, that looks well balanced, because you always just want more of yourself. Well, I do anyway. So I'm like, well, on this day off, I could slip in a bit of training here or whatever. And yeah, like, so having someone there to look at what you're doing every week and just making sure that you're not being a bit of a dick and overdoing it, like it's necessary. Like, and some days, like there's, for me, it's as simple as going, maybe I'll speak to my partner D and be like, okay, I taught 10 hours today, and the day before was like 9 hours. And I also did a training session there as well. And I want to train tomorrow morning, but I'm very tired. I should sleep in, shouldn't I? And he's like, yes, you should. I'm like, okay.
And you know it. You're saying it out loud, and as you're saying it, you know it. But sometimes you just need literally someone to be
I just need D to be like, that's stupid. You should have sleep in because you look tired. Bitch, you look tired.
If you're tired, go to sleep. Literally.
You're doing pole, you always want more of yourself. So you're always going to be like, well, yeah, I should train because that's gonna make me better. But yeah, like it will not. You will just get fatigued, and you'll get into this like spiral of, this is what will happen to me sometimes. I will be like, well, this was a shit training session, so I'm going to come back tomorrow because I must pay the troll toll because I stuffed up and this session was just shit. So I'm going in tomorrow. That's my fault. And then I'll train again, and it's shit because I'm tired. And I'm like, well, bitch, no, you have to train the next day as well. And like, I don't do this anymore, but it used to be that way. Like, if I didn't get what I wanted out of that session, clearly because my body was tired or was just having a bad day, I would go back the next day, which is stupid.
So I'm going to talk about this from a physio point of view and for a moment, because I think that's actually a really, really important thing that you brought up. We talk about a process of super compensation where there's overload that happens. So meaning you train, what happens is your body actually depletes energy, you give it enough rest, and it actually super compensates and starts to build strength and energy as you get the rest in. If you get the, not the right amount of rest, but it's sufficient enough, what will happen is you'll break down, you'll build, and you'll stay at the same level. You'll break down and you'll build, stay at the same level. You won't actually make any physical gains, whilst you might have some motor control gains where you feel maybe like a little bit more aware of what you're doing on the pole. You physically won't actually build strength. And if you don't get enough rest in, you'll break down, start to recover, break down, start to recover, break down, start to recover, and you'll start to trend downwards in your strength and capacity. You'll become less resilient and much more susceptible to an injury, which is exactly what happened to you all those years.
And on top of that, the mental health side of that is just not a fun time.
Not a fun time. Your injury was not a fun time. No.
Yeah, like you just gotta, yeah. So that's why it's good to have someone, like you to be like, right. You know, the other day I was like, I could do 3 gym sessions a week. You were like, no.
I was like, no more than 2.
You know, like I could do 3 gym sessions a week. I would probably kill myself doing it because like, where am I going to fit that in? But yeah, I just need someone to be like, no, calm down, calm your farm, and let's just do 2. Okay, thank you.
And so what people don't understand is that with rest, you'll actually be a better athlete. Your performance will improve immediately. So, you know, you have a shit day one day, take a decent rest period. Don't rush back. Like we were saying, there's no troll toll. Is that what you called it? That's hilarious.
Yeah, you didn't train well. So you need to come back, pay your toll, train well.
No troll.
I'm the troll. I don't know.
There is no toll, people. There is 0 toll. If you have a bad training session, listen to your body, check that you're getting enough sleep, check that you're getting enough food in, check you're getting enough hydration, check your mental health, check all the factors around you first, and figure out, was it all the other things that are causing a bad training session, or like, you know, was it just a once-off bad training session versus fatigue versus any of those other factors I've listed. If that's the case, fine, sure, you might be okay to come back the next day. But if it's any of those other factors, if you ignore them, it's going to spiral. So yeah, that's all.
Stepping away is good sometimes. Like having a couple of days off, which I know that will kill most pole dancers. Like I understand that. Like, but you'll come back and you'll be fresh. And you'll actually want to be there and want to train as well. Like it is good for your brain, it's good for your body. And it took me a long time to learn that. So just learn from me. And like this stems back to my triathlon days where I overtrained and got really, really sick and unwell. And I mean, I suppose that back then when I was a bit younger, it was also body image stuff as well. Like I'm the same height as I am now, because I think I had a pretty quick growth spurt when I was younger. And I was something like 52 kilos, but I was like, well, I have to keep on training because I need to be slim. And like, I think I'm 72 kilos now. So I was very little. So I worked myself so hard back then because it was all about like impressing my coach and impressing my mum and all these things. And so for me, like, I think it is still hard for me to not overtrain because that's just how it was just from the very beginning for me. But I've definitely learned some lessons from it. I've been too sick from it to want to go down that pathway again.
I mean, this was years and years ago. I know your triathlon training history, obviously in detail from many of our chats, and I appreciate you bringing it up because there'll be a lot of other polers out there who are struggling with like with eating disorders, I guess. So I think it's really important to broach that and know that it significantly affects health, and to get medical advice if you're one that struggles with any sort of eating disorder.
Yeah, it's like for me, like that would have been one of the reasons I got really sick and unwell, because like I couldn't grow any muscle. I couldn't go anywhere if I'm not fueling my body properly. So yeah,
it's so much with it. We've got a blog coming out later this year as well, which kind of ties into not specifically eating disorders but associated issues with it, called Res and Amenorrhea, which we'll go into great detail about, particularly with females in terms of loss of period associated with overtraining and a few different things. So for anyone interested, keep an eye out, because there's a lot to unpack there, and it's out of scope of today's podcast and video, so I won't do that with you today, Mish, because there's so much that's associated with it. I sidetracked them, but we'll bring it back. All right, so comp wise, how many comps are you planning on doing this year, roughly?
So 3. I want to do 3. I did just have one other crew message and be like, hey, and I'm like, oh God, I'll speak to Sim about it later. But
Oh, I saw the sheepish look in your eyes as well.
like I think ideally for me 3. So my comp history, I suppose, was like do all the things, good experience. And yeah, to an extent, like when you're a young polar, yes, it should very quickly stop. Like maybe after, do that for a year, sure. But then, for me at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't want to go on stage with something that's half baked because I didn't have enough time to go on to prepare it properly. That's just I know that's just gonna make me feel very shit in my head because I'm gonna walk away. And like, me, I prep fairly well for things. Like quite often I'm like, oh, where'd that time go? I've only got like 11 weeks to prep for Miss Pole. Oh no, which I mean, for most people, maybe 11 or 12 weeks is good, but I would probably prefer to be working on things at like 14 weeks out because cardio.
Cardio. But also just
cardio.
want some buffer, like, because shit happens, right, in life. Things get thrown up all the time, and you want a 1 or 2 week buffer that you can pull things off still confidently, in case shit does happen. Yeah.
So what were we talking about? Oh yeah. So yeah, for me, I want to do less comps, but be really, really happy with what I put on stage. Not sort of like, oh yeah, I'm just putting this together just because I entered into this comp without any thought. Like I used to just enter into comps without any thought of what show I was doing, what, like I have no idea. I don't even have a song. I don't know what I'm doing, like, and yeah, look, I don't know what I'm doing for a pole icon in June. I'm starting to think about it and find my way, but like, that's June.
In a while, we're good.
Time, but that time will run out pretty quickly. So yeah, less comps is, I think, more ideal. Just so that you're not overcooking yourself. You have time to play throughout the year as well. Like, how are you ever going to grow and learn and upskill your tricks and everything if you're just going from comp to comp to comp? Like, there isn't time. Like, I mean, unless you're an absolute superhero and you can train your comp at the same time as upskilling tricks, which, like, I'd like to think that at one point I thought that I could get 2 comps prepared at the same time. No, ma'am. No, you cannot. I can't focus on 2 things at the same time like that, like at that amount of pressure. So maybe you can, but I don't know if you're giving your full 100% to both of those competitions.
Very few people do it very well. Like very, very few people. Most of the time, something has to give. So it's either your comp prep, whilst you're preparing, it's not getting done to your maximum potential that you want to be actually achieving it, or the trick is getting done at a very crappy way. Like, so it's not being done properly. You're not putting energy in. So sure, it's possible, but something gives at some point. You've only got so much capacity to give as an individual. You have we are limited. I think people hate hearing that, but we are limited. Yes, our limits can change. We can build and increase our capacity in our limits so we can grow as individuals and push the limits out, but there is still a roof, there is still a ceiling, and we are limited. So I think it's really important to understand.
And I think for the most part, like I hear a lot of people backstage, I don't often say it, but I hear a lot of people backstage that are like, why do we do this to ourselves? I know that you're not, I know that these people aren't saying it because they hate it. Maybe they hate the day because the day is big. You got to go in and you've got to do your tech run, and then you've got to like stuff around and do makeup and hair, and then maybe you're having a snooze under a table, and like it's just a big day. So I get that day is stressful, but leading up to comp is really stressful. There's a lot of like this with your emotions. Like there's one day where you're like, I love my concept and my theme and it's going to be so good and everyone's going to understand it, and then the next day you're like, nah, this is shit, no one's going to understand what I'm doing, I'm a potato and cook me now. Like there's a lot of mental up and down coming into a comp. Why would you do something like 6 or 7 comps in a year? Because that's a lot of mental up and down, man.
So you're bound to have a few mentee bees. Mentee bees, mental breakdowns. So in Australia we like a short and everything. So The one I will say is like a little somewhat of an exception to this that I'm okay with, but again, it's probably more like exposure and experience, but still I'm just like, nah, it's not my jam. It's when people use the same routine many times throughout the year. And so for some people, the when I have an issue with it is when they're trying to force it into a comp that it clearly doesn't suit the vibe of the comp. And we'll chat about that in the second chat. But definitely, like, if there's comps that are very similar and you want to use the same routine 2 or 3 times, then sure, by your 14 weeks of training and you've locked in your comp, it's kind of fairly easy to maintain that same routine throughout the year, in terms of as long as you train it once or twice a week, you can still be training some upskilling and actually be growing as an individual. That's probably the exception there, the one exception. And I know a lot of advanced or intermediate level polers do that quite a fair bit. Nothing wrong with it. It's sometimes I love it, sometimes I'm just like, really? But
I think like definitely reuse routines if you can, where you can, because like you've spent a lot of time and money and effort to put that shit together. And also, you know, maybe the first time you did it, you're like, because I've got, you know, like Miss Pole just recently, I walked off stage and I was like, it could have been better. after the seeing Jesus bit with my eyes rolled into the back of my head, you know, like after that I was like, I can be stronger and cleaner and tidier than that, and damn. And I would love to do it again. Also, I would not love to do it again because that really hurt the old cardio. But yeah, like, yes, I think you can improve on your shows. And yes, you've spent all this time and effort and energy doing it. Yeah, it has to suit the sort of comp as well, of course. But I think like some people just also have different tolerance for trying to put together new things, and that's why maybe they'll reuse. Because I find, I don't know about you, but the most stressful part of going like, yes, I'm going to do that show is like, what am I going to do? What is my concept? What song am I going to do? Do the people like this song? Do the people like the concept? Is this silly? Like, I will very much doubt myself in that phase of trying to make a thing, because I'm like, what if they hate it?
Which they never do. So
it's just my process, I guess, going through a whole lot of self-doubt. Yay.
Fun times.
Yeah.
I was going to say, probably my biggest issue when people go to reusing routines is when they do it to a point that it's like 7 or 8 comps later. And I'm just like, why are you doing this to yourself in terms of the emotional, physical, and mental stress over the year? I don't know if there's like a number that you'd go, this is an okay amount to use the same. I don't know. Is there? I think it's probably personal, but like,
I think it's personal. Like, I feel like I would get sick of it at like, I'd want to do something twice. If I did it 3 times, I'd probably be like, that's enough. I need to do something else so I can grow and do. Because like, that's the other thing. Like, if I'm doing, unless they're comps that are quite close back to back, like I'm wanting to challenge myself. I personally don't want to sit in my comfort zone with my tricks. Like, I want to be challenged by my tricks. So every new comp is like, I don't want to just rip that combo and put it here unless I'm running low on time or something. Like, I want to create something, even if it's a slightly different pathway, just something that's going to push me a little bit. That, like, you know, maybe that transition the other day that I trained was really tricky, but totally doable. So I'm going to do it in this comp so then it's doable at all times afterwards, you know.
So I think maybe, yeah, so for me personally, I think my tolerance is when I see professional athletes like yourself and pole dancers and aerialists doing routines. I think this is so subjective. This is me. Just FYI, this is me. This is not a hard and fast rule for everyone watching. I'm happy to see the same routine twice, I think, for a professional athlete. 3's kind of like, yeah, okay, starting to push it a little bit. If I see it 4 times, I'm like, come on. Versus if I'm seeing like an intermediate advanced poler do the same routine 4 times, no problem. But I think 4 becomes my limit for like an advanced poler throughout the year.
My expectations of the professional pole dance world. Look, I think that is definitely a you thing. Like,
as an audience member.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't care to see it. Like, I don't mind seeing a show redone. But that's maybe just because I'm a bit of a goldfish. Like, I'll watch a movie and then I'll watch it again and be like, have I even seen this? I don't remember this part in the middle here. Like, so maybe that's just me because I'm just like a little goldfish swimming in a tank being like, hello. Oh, hello.
Like Nemo. No, Dory, like Dory from Finding Nemo.
Yeah, I am Dory. So Yeah, I think I like to see it because I'm like, oh yeah, you did that thing. This really cool trick here. I forgot about that. Derp, you know, but yeah, that's a you thing, man. You're harsh. Oh my
I
God.
am. I'm clearly, yeah, sorry. Sorry to everyone out there who's like disagreeing with me. That's okay. It's personal opinion. It's fine.
Do your routine
You
15
do your,
times.
yeah. Don't listen to me. This is not this is not if you want to do it 4 or 5 times, that's on you. That's so fine. Yeah.
And
And
that's
I'll
cool.
be there cheering you on.
That's the thing. Like people will listen to you because you are the pole physio.
I
They're like,
know.
I won't do it more
No,
than
please
times. But like do what you want to do, man. Do you, boo. Make yourself happy and be happy with what you do, you know?
listen to Mischka, not me. Absolutely. I much prefer that outlook, that's for sure. All right, I think we've covered most things. In terms of probably the last question I have for you is about sacrifice. That sounds horrible when I put it like that. Lambs for slaughter. No. What gets sacrificed for you when it comes time to comp prep? So what are the first things that just go? Because something has to give sometimes when we put a lot more stress on ourselves. Like I said, we're limited in terms of capacity. What happens?
Yep. So I'm a sleepy girl, so sometimes sleep is sacrifice, which is not good. As in, like, you know, I'll be like, okay, I need to do this comp run through, and the only time I can do it is in the morning because I have a break in the middle of the day between this chunk of teaching and this chunk of teaching. But am I going to do my run through in the middle of the day? Probably not, because I'll want to eat my lunch and then I'll have that post lunch sleepy feel. Like, so yeah, sometimes I'm getting up earlier to do a session, which just means that I need to try to get to bed earlier the night before. So, but with, that doesn't always happen. So if it's not sleep, it's like just a bit of time at home, extra time at home to just do me things or hang out with D, or, it's kind of like, all right, Sunday is the only really quiet day that I've got this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to go in and do my training session then. So yeah, that sort of stuff. And then there's playtime. Playtime is the other big sacrifice. And I really like just playing and jamming. But yeah, I think we briefly covered it before. Like I can't do heaps of playtime for me when I'm training comp. Because I am physically tired and my brain is a bit tapped out. I am still creating stuff because I have to, because of like elite level classes and things. Like I'm still doing, a bit of creating, but my perfect ideal day is to, come in and be like, I have 3 hours to fluff and play. This perfect ideal day only happens in like, the Christmas break period. Like it doesn't happen at all throughout the year. So like, I just want to come in and just play and maybe have a little bit of heels dance time. And then I'm going to work this sequence of tricks here and I'll do a bit of spin pole. Oh, it's beautiful. Like, that hasn't happened in a very long time, but that definitely gets sacrificed. And I only have, that little bit of time to, and sometimes it's quite stressful because I've got a lot of shit going on in my head, and I'll have a sit down before teaching. I'm like, okay. I'll look at my timetable and I'm like, damn it. I have 25 minutes before teaching starts and I need to prep something really quickly for elite and finish this next chunk of choreo for this routine because I am Dory and I forgot. So yeah, there's a bit of sacrifice with regards to how much I can give to exploring new pathways of movement and being artistic. And I really like the artistic side of pole, so that has to go sometimes. And like, yeah, you might say, you're being artistic, creating your competition, but you are doing a thing on repeat again and again and again, trying to refine it, which will still look artistic and fun and exciting on a stage. But at some point, your brain is like, I know this. Can we do something else? And I can't all the time because I'm tired.
Yes, I was going to say you're not creating something new. Once you're doing something on repeat, you're not then dabbling with new wonderful things to play with. You're doing the same thing, like I said.
Okay. And I really like that phase of like the phase that I'm in right now of training for things that I will achieve. Like this year, I will. So I like that phase. But yeah, I just need to come to terms with the fact that it's not going to be something that I can do all throughout the year. For me, it's realistically at the start of the year, and then I just maintain those things. And then the next year I go, okay, what else do I want in my life?
Yeah. Well, you've given great insight for everyone who's been watching and joining along with this video. Thank you so much for your time. You know, I appreciate you, and I appreciate you joining me today to share your wisdom. So thanks for that. I'm looking forward to chat number 2, which will be coming out next week for those watching at home. So keep an eye on that, which we're going to be talking about how to create a routine, so step by step, what you go through in terms of processes to figure that out. So on that, me a little cheersy mug. Let's say, got to have our little coffee shop.
Drink.
Cheers. There we go. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you shortly. Bye.